And we may have a slight technical delay when we switch between presenting. So I just wanted to say real quick, I'm Mr. Gross, and my camera's not even on. I'm Mr. Gross. I'm the Sumter County Young Farmer Instructor. For those who don't know, quick spiel, Sumter Young Farmers is not necessarily for farmers, and you don't necessarily have to be young to be a member. Generally, our goal is to provide education for people in our community related to everything agriculture. Whether it's small scale production or larger scale production, row cropping. Hopefully, we're going to get into beef cattle a little bit more and stuff like that in the future. So, since COVID hit, we're all adapting to survive, and we've been doing a lot more virtual, small scale production, as well as some hobby niche market type classes. Mr. Brock did a soap making class for us. I want to say a month or two ago. And so we're really enjoying learning together. And we try to have a meeting at least once a month. Sometimes we may have two, depending on how it goes. So if you're local, I'll encourage you to join. Membership for one person is $20, for a couple is $30, and for anyone under 18, it's a $10 membership. And if that's something you're interested in joining, let me know at some point. I'll drop my email in the chat box. And you guys can email me, let me know if you're interested in joining. And I was also going to warn that I do have a 2-year-old and a 2-week-old. So if you hear some screaming, don't be too terribly alarmed. I'm going to mute and unmute my mic as we go to avoid some of that. So all that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Lewis. He's going to get his presentation pulled up, and he can give you a better introduction than I can.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. We practiced this technology last night. We'll see if we can do it 2 days in a row here.
I believe in you.
All right, looks like it's coming up. Okay, so you can see by the opening slide, I'm Dr. Greg Lewis. I am retired in Air Force, retired civil service. I retired approximately at 3 o'clock on September 18th, 2020 from civil service, and have been enjoying the retired life. I love doing this nursery stuff. It keeps me busy as I want to be. Actually, a little busier sometimes, but I'm enjoying it. Get to do things like this. It's quite a pleasure, quite an honor to have me here, and I appreciate the opportunity. And so, thank you, Brandon, for inviting me here tonight. So I know everyone's got a busy schedule, probably had a long day. So thank you again for coming. This will be a semi-interactive session. So there'll be some opportunities in chat. If you want to ask questions, if you would just put it in the chat. Brandon's going to be the moderator. So if you have a question, just put it in the chat, and he'll stop me, and we can ask the questions. We can do it as we go. It's kind of a small group, so we can be as informal as you want to be. That's perfectly okay. I've got this 30-minute presentation. I got 90 slides. That's a joke. I don't have 90 slides. Be kind of tough to do 90 slides in 30 minutes. So first thing I'd like to do is in the chat, if you would just say, what is your favorite fruit that's growing in your yard currently? So what's the favorite fruit you have growing in your yard currently? So post it in the chat. And if you're not in Sumter County, if you would just put what county you're in. So as you're doing that, I'm going to procedures. Just have some kind of introductory slides here. So Flat Creek Natives, you can tell by the name that we focus on native plants. When you start a nursery, there's so many things that you could do. You can focus on medicinals. You can focus on just wildflowers or shrubs or trees or bog plants. You know, there's just ornamentals. There's just so many things. What I'm focusing on are the natives to Georgia's coastal plain. So that kind of helps me say no to someone comes and says, "Well, would you like to have some of this? Is it native to Georgia's coastal plain?" No, then I don't want to put it in the inventory. So that just kind of helps manage the size. We're not a big nursery. It's just me. I do have a couple interns from Mercer, or an intern, and they're supposed to be getting a couple more here pretty soon. And then there's a guy from my Sunday school class helps me sometimes. A couple tenants that we kind of use in life: recycle, repurpose, reuse. So, you know, we reuse pots, newspaper, whatever we have laying around. So, you know, if you happen to come to the nursery, you got empty pots at your house, just bring them, and that'll be perfectly fine. I have people, sometimes I'll come home and there'll be a stack of pots in the driveway, you know, beside the driveway. So people, they know I use them, reuse them. And so they'll just drop them off. And saving the pollinators is a big thing. I love the plants. Kind of my focus with all the plants I've got, and I've got like 4 or 5 pages of things in our price and availability list. The native azaleas are things I love, and then the pollinator plants, especially the wildflower pollinator plants, and then some of the ones like the spice bush that are a host plant for the spice bush swallowtail. And you know, we're in the middle of Georgia, so you know, if you're up around Perry sometime, just stop by. On the last slide, I have some directions and the address and all that. So we'll get to that. What we got going on now is I'm a member of the Georgia Native Plant Society, and they have a certification, so you can certify that you're a legitimate, nice place for native plants. So they're working on that. They haven't done the inspection yet. There's something Dr. Doug Tallamy, if you haven't heard of Dr. Tallamy, he's got some very cool work going on. He's got working on homegrown national park across the country. I've applied for the Rosalind Carter Butterfly Trail, and I do a lot of mail order. In fact, I got a invoice in just a few minutes ago. A guy in Texas wants some red chokeberry and some black chokeberry. We'll talk about those in a few minutes. So I ship these things all over the country. I'm building a wildflower meadow. It's about 1/5 of an acre. And I'm also working on a food forest or an orchard. So I'm putting in, I don't know, 7 kinds of figs and pretty much all the stuff we're talking about tonight. I will have those, and also raspberries and blackberries and some Asian pears. I have some other things. Some of our upcoming events that we have going on is on the 6th of March, I'm doing a sale at the Perry property. It's the Saturday after the Georgia Native Plant Society Symposium, which is the Saturday and Sunday prior to that. It's going to be virtual this year for the first time. On the 10th of April, I'm going to be at the Dogwood Festival in Perry. And then something for you guys, if you're interested in, on the 21st, this is not just for Flat Creek natives, but on the 21st and the 20th and the 21st of August is the Great Georgia Pollinator Census. So you can go onto the Facebook, and I think it's out on the web as well, and find out about that. But you spend 15 minutes, you pick a plant, and you count the number of insects, and you try to identify the number of insects that you have. You count them and then identify them. You know, are they wasps, are they bees, butterflies, moths, whatever. So that's a good school activity. You can incorporate math and language arts and the botany kind of thing. So that's kind of a good project to get into. We've done it the last several years we've hosted it at the Flat Creek Natives. We have people come out and do counts on some of our plants. So you may be asking the question, what is native? So basically native are plants that were here before the Europeans got here. is pretty much what it means. Once the Europeans got here, we started bringing in all kinds of stuff. So the the plants, the insects, the pollinators, the mammals, they don't have a long relationship. Just maybe a couple hundred years, of relationship, as opposed to thousands of years that the insects and the plants that have co-evolved that were already here. So who cares? Why would you even want to go native? What does it matter? Well, bugs are kind of the foundation of the food chain. So if we don't have bugs, then you don't have birds, because birds eat bugs. And as it turns out, I wasn't aware of all this, but bears. A bear's diet can consist up to 90% of plant-based food. They eat berries and all kinds of things. Same thing with foxes. I was reading a study where some foxes, they did an autopsy on foxes. Not sure who does that, autopsies on foxes, but 76% of the foxes had plant, contained plant, some kind of berries or fruit in their stomach at the autopsy. If you want to have birds, you got to have bugs. Take the chickadee for example. When chickadees, they're a small bird, just a couple ounces, but when they have their nestlings, when they build their clutch, and the birds are there, they will need about 5,000 bugs to raise their young. And they don't travel miles for these things. They may travel 50 or 100 meters. So if you don't have the plants that attract the bugs, you're not going to have the birds, because if they don't see the bugs, they're not going to build their nest there. And you can have a beautiful ginkgo tree, you can have a beautiful crepe myrtle, and you won't see hardly any bugs on it. You can have an oak tree. An oak tree will have is host plant for around 400 something, 500 different pollinators come to an oak tree. So if you have an oak tree, then you're going to have the bugs, and you'll have chickadees and birds and all that. So let me just talk briefly about host plant and nectar plant. These insects, these plants I've been talking about, these insects are specialists. You take the monarch butterfly, for instance. They will not lay their eggs on just any plant. They will only lay their eggs on the milkweed, Asclepias tuberosa, Asclepias perennis, some kind of milkweed. So if you don't have milkweed, you're not going to have the monarch butterfly. If you don't have the spice bush, you're not going to have the spice bush swallowtail. Now, you can have your butterfly bush and all these other things out there, and there'll be butterflies on them, and they'll be using it for food, for nectar, for pollen. But if you don't have the host plant, the native host plant, the butterfly's not going to get there, and they're not going to be there to eat from the other plants. Let me just put a plug in here at the bottom. You see there's a link, and I think Brandon is going to put this in the chat, but the National Wildlife Federation has a web page. You can put in your zip code, and it will tell you. You can say what are the pollinator plants for a certain butterfly or something. It'll tell you what you need to plant for that, or what you need to put in your garden or your yard, or it'll say what is the most prolific pollinator for your zip code. And typically it's going to be oaks is going to be at the top of the list. Second of the list are going to be like the cherries, the prunus, like the black cherry. So that's just a useful resource. And Dr. Talamay, I mentioned him previously. He's the kind of the brainchild behind that. His students, primarily his doctoral students, did a lot of the work and the brain power behind that. These are taken in my yard. I just love these. The bottom right there, you see a scarlet hibiscus. I mean, it's just a gorgeous color. At the top is the Georgia aster, and it has two little bumblebees visiting it. they're just enjoying that. One thing I like about the Georgia aster is it's a late bloomer. So around September, October, that's when it blooms, when a lot of other things are not. And then you see the little moth down here on the black-eyed Susan, Rudbeckia hirta. So I just like those pictures. I got a bunch of pictures, and I just wanted to share some of them with you. All right, so here is our agenda for the day. Here's our itinerary. You can see, we got 12 of these things. So we'll start out with the Downy service berry. We'll go to the is the first stop. The second stop is the black chokeberry, and then we'll go to the red chokeberry. So I have there's 12 varieties that we're going to look at today. So I have a little quiz. And this quiz is, there's an order, there's a method to this madness. So if you can figure out the system for the briefing order, the 1 through 12, starting with the Downy serviceberry and ending with the Elliott Blueberry, if you can figure out the briefing order, put it in the chat. And the first one who gets the correct answer gets a free wildflower from Flat Creek Natives. You can come up and pick that up at our Perry location. Or if you're at one of our sales, you can, we can do that as well. So we're going to take this little journey down the road, and I'll have a little signpost on each page so you know where we're at. So we have 12 of them. Most of these are berries. There's, one or two. I think there's one that's not there's several that are not berries. We have some plums and then the Paw Paw, but most of these are berries. And there's a quiz at the end. It's not going to be a graded quiz, but there's a quiz at the end. Just kind of see, I call it a celebration of learning. When I was working full time, I taught adult education, and we didn't call them tests or exams. We called them celebrations of learning. So we'll have one of those at the end. Don't despair. It's not real difficult. So we'll just get kicked off with the Downy serviceberry.
Mr. Lewis, so one before you go ahead.
Yes.
What do you the person who guesses how these are organized? He's got them numbered, but how did he organize them in his very organized fashion? How did he organize them, or how did he list these, or choose to list these? Is kind of the question that we're looking for in the chat box for your free plant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to recap that because I don't have any good guesses yet. So,
all right. So if you would, Brandon, kind of just keep an eye for the chat and just let me know who gets this. And if we don't get it at the end, then we'll invite everybody to the Flat Creek Natives, and we'll have a raffle or something on the day that you come. We'll have everybody come at once. How's that? All right. So we'll start with the Downy serviceberry, and there's some. It looks like there's my slide is changing when I don't want it to change. So this is the first one. This was the 2005 Georgia Native Plant Society Plant of the Year. One thing that's I like about the Downy serviceberry, you probably have a ton of Bradford pears. We do up in Houston County, and pretty much you run up and down the highway, and there are plenty of Bradford pears all over the place. So if you want to replace your Bradford pear, the Downy serviceberry is a good option to do that. The berry is about the size of a blueberry. I haven't eaten one. It does have some. The plant does have some good ornamental value. Like the Bradford pear. That's the big thing about the Bradford pear is the ornamental value. So the blooms are gorgeous, and then the foliage in fall, it has some nice foliage that has some good interest. So it's not just the same thing all year round. It doesn't like wet areas. You know, it can take some moisture, but it doesn't like a wet, boggy kind of area. And remember, I talked about the host plant and the larval plant. On some of these slides, I've highlighted at the bottom that there's, I say, larval host plant. So like this one is the larval host plant for the red spotted purple and the viceroy caterpillars. So just know that there are, you know, so if you have one of these, you're going to be bringing in some butterflies. And you see the zones down there. You may be wondering what that's about. That's the USDA zone. I mentioned before that I have a mail order. I do quite a bit of mail order business. So these slides I've taken and I've buffed them up a little bit from, you know, before the presentation. But this is the information I use for my mail order customers. So, you know, they want to know, you know, if they're in Maine or if they're in Oklahoma, if they're in Texas or, you know, South Carolina or Pennsylvania, whatever, they want to know, you know, will this be good for their zone? So, you know, we're in zone 8. So but, you know, if you're up in Maine or in, you know, Michigan or whatever, yeah, I think they're zone 4. So this is pretty much what will be, you can have it all over. But that's what the zones is for, just to help the mail order customers. All right, so the second one on the list, okay, the slide jumped up, is the red chokeberry, and it keeps popping off on me. It did it last night. And I was not able to fix it. I'm trying to get back to the red chokeberry. All right. So we're at the red chokeberry. Thing about the red chokeberry is it makes a nice thicket. So the mammals, the birds, you know, the small animals, they've got a place to hide. You can see the color on there. So there's a nice interest there in the fall. For the humans, however, the fruit is kind of astringent, so that may not be real good. But however, I haven't had any chokeberry jams or jellies, but they say it's pretty good, makes pretty good jelly. And for some reason, there's a black chokeberry and there's a red chokeberry, and I sell a lot more red chokeberries than black chokeberries, and I'm not sure what the attraction for the red over the black is. But if you're looking for an area you want to just, you know, have a mass of things that's friendly to pollinators, this is the red chokeberry is a good one. Its cousin, Aronia, is the black chokeberry. The wildlife of the black chokeberry. The fruit's a little, or not fruit, but the plant's a little smaller. It only gets like 3 to 6 feet, but still, it makes a good habitat for the mammals. You know, the bears, the foxes. You know, they'll come in and they'll eat the fruit. The raccoons, whatever. It's a good good for them. Most of these, I mentioned it here on the sun. Most of these do best in full sun. Most fruiting trees, whether, you know, like blueberries, if you have full sun, you're going to get better fruit than if you don't have full sun. So again, the fruit's kind of astringent, so, you know, it makes jellies and jams. It does good for that. So the Paw Paw slide has been trying to come up for a couple times now, and the Paw Paw, it's the largest fruit bearing tree in North America. So Paw Paw is pretty good size. I haven't tasted Paw Paw. It's like my favorite fruit. I've never tasted. I want one. So I'm gonna be having plenty of Paw Paws in the orchard I'm talking about, that I've talked about building. Interesting on the Paw Paws, they are pollinated by flies, not by the butterflies and bats and whatever, but flies. So some of the strategies that people used, some of the strategies that people use to try to get the pawpaws pollinated is to hang a piece of meat there, because the meat will attract the flies. Or I was talking to Brandon yesterday. Another thing to do is to make some honey, get some honey and some water, and spray the tree with some honey water, and to attract the flies. So from what I hear, the raccoons, the wildlife, they love the pawpaws. So if you plant them, my thing on the blackberries, or in my house, I've got a row of blueberries, and birds love the blueberries. So my strategy is plant enough for everybody. So, I don't use nets and all that kind of stuff. I've tried that in the past and it didn't really work. So I got another question for you. Pawpaw was the favorite fruit of which American president? Anybody care to take a guess?
I told him not to tell me yesterday, so I'd have a chance to guess just in case nobody had a good one. Mr. Brock, I'm gonna call him Mr. Brock though. Who is it? If you're there,
George Washington. I don't
Well,
know.
that was a good guess. And Mr. Brock, you were exactly right.
Good deal.
Yeah. So
there you
that
go.
was,
I believe
yeah,
you
that's
the whole time.
Yeah, that's a pretty good. I wouldn't have known that. Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. I like sharing that. So another one is the persimmon. I think pretty much everybody has heard of persimmon or seen a persimmon. They like kind of a drier area. It's another wildlife favorite. You want to make sure that it's ripe when you eat the fruit. Otherwise, your mouth is gonna draw up. So make sure that it's ripe. The hunters, I sell quite a few of the American persimmons and the plums to hunters. They like coming in, planting the trees that are going to attract the wildlife, so then they can shoot them for the meat or whatever. It has a variety of uses. You can make jellies and pies and whatever out of it. I thought it was interesting down here. It says that they use it for golf club heads, billiard cues, and shoe lasts. And so I'm not going to ask you the question. I'm not going to try to prompt an answer for shoe last. But I was wondering, well, what in the heck is a shoe last? So I looked it up. And so shoe last is the you've seen them, the cobblers and the shoemakers, they use them to to mold the shoe. And even Nike has shoe lasts that they use. They don't look like this. They have, they're a little more modern. But so anyway, no additional charge on this, Brandon. That's not native fruit, but I just thought that was kind of interesting.
One of my favorite days of teaching, I'll interject real quick, was the day I went and picked some persimmons, some green persimmons, and took them to class and asked students if they wanted to sample them. It made for a fantastic day.
Oh, I bet. All right, so we are down to number 6 on this one, the crab apple. It's another one that the wildlife like. Again, they don't like real wet areas. It's a medium growth plant, good for jellies, good for jams and ciders. They can get kind of big. I've tried eating them. They don't really taste good, but if you can process them and make them into jelly. So you notice a lot of these things, even the astringent things, you can make jams and jellies. You put enough sugar in something and you can make it taste good. They make garlic jelly there. So, kudzu jelly. So, all right, so here's another question. If you know the answer, put it in the chat. Does anyone know what dioecious means? I know this is not a botany lesson, and if you don't, that's okay. All right, so I'm gonna press on. I put the definition in here. So what dioecious is there's male flowers and female flowers are on separate trees. Like a fig tree, you can have a fig tree and you're going to have fruit. But if the plant is dioecious, then you'll need a male plant and a female plant to get the fruit that you want to. And that's important. Here I bring it up because the red mulberry is one of these dioecious. You can see in the middle here that you have to have the male plant and the female plant. Someone I think I saw in the chat a while ago, they said something about blackberries. Oh, looks like Jennifer might have nailed it there. So you see the mulberry kind of looks like blackberries, but it's not blackberry. That picture there is of a red mulberry. It is not a it's not of a of a blackberry, but you got to be careful about this this fruit. You don't see it in stores. It's very perishable, so it doesn't store well, doesn't travel well. But apparently, it's good for jams and jellies, and some people, use it for adult beverages. When you go to a nursery and ask for a mulberry, you need a male and a female to get the fruit. Most of the nurseries, including mine, we don't know because a plant has to be, probably 4 or 5 years old before it gets big enough so you can tell by the flowers and the fruit what kind it is. And most people, that they would rather buy a smaller plant and pay less money. And so that's just something to be aware of. All right. So in case you're wondering, I knew somebody was going to ask the question, what are some other dioecious natives? And here's the list here, sassafras spice bush, the fringe tree, the Grancy graybeard, some people call it. All right, so we got 3 plums that we're going to look at tonight. The first one is the North American plum. So this is the Prunus angustifolia. You can see I've got the pronunciation there. So the Native Americans like this. The fruit, it's red and then it turns yellow. I have some of these in my yard. I have yet to eat a single piece of fruit. We've been here for 3 years. I've yet to eat a single piece of fruit. By the time it ripens, when I go out there, the birds or the squirrels or somebody has already eaten them. So I remember getting some, as a kid eating the plums. They're pretty good. Kind of tart. They do provide a nice thicket for the the birds and the small mammals, and for their good pollinator host. You can see there's quite a few butterflies that are attracted to the North American plum. The next one is the Chickasaw. The Chickasaw plum. So it's another fast growing one. Again, the birds like it, the mammals like it, the deer, they like it. Has beautiful blooms. Again, it's a good larval host. And then the last is I had never heard of this one until a couple months ago. The Flatwoods plum. I found out about it and I started carrying it in my nursery. I have some of them bare root, which means they're not potted up. You just you buy the tree, but they're like 5 or 6 feet tall. But this one's a little different. This one doesn't have all it doesn't form a thicket for like some of the other plums, so it's a little tamer. But the bees still like it. The animals still like it. It's still the butterflies like it. So you can make the jams and jellies. So I have some calls for this this particular one. All right, so number 9. Oops, I went backwards. All right, so number 11, the elderberry. I like the elderberry. The one thing I like about the elderberry is I have some growing on the property, and they make so much fruit. So you can go out there, and at one time you can just gather handfuls and handfuls of these things. So they like kind of moisty, wet areas when they're when you're riding down the road when they're in bloom. You can see them, along the ditch banks, around ponds and around streams and all that. So they've got gorgeous flowers, gorgeous fruit. You can cook them, and people make syrup out of them. Put them in jellies and jams and pancakes. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. And I wasn't aware of this, but you use it for dyes, and you make musical instruments out of the elderberry. All right, so down to the last one, the Elliott Blueberry. Oh, the Elliott Blueberry. I've got a couple of these in the yard, and in the second bullet there, it says it has sour berries. The ones that I've got, the berries are pretty sweet. They're not near as big as the rabbit eyes. I've got them all kind of over in the same part of the yard. If you come to the nursery, you'll see I've got a blueberry hedge between my workshop and my house. And I've got elderberries at one end of the hedge, again, a couple goji berries. And then I've got some Elliott blueberries and a sparkleberry at the other end of the hedge. So it makes some quite a few, very prolific, makes a lot of berries, not quite as big or as much as the elderberry, but still makes a lot of berries. They're delicious, and I really like any of the blueberries. All right, so this concludes the 12 varieties of minor fruits of Georgia that we were going to talk about. So I've got a couple questions. If you would just put the answers to the chat, I've got the quiz coming up, and as we're going through the quiz, don't let the quiz scare you. If you could just put in the chat, I'm just kind of curious. All right, so you've heard about these 12 minor fruit. Are any of these are something that you might want to put in your yard or in your landscape or on your property at this point? So if you could just share that with us, if you don't mind. And then if there's something that you learned from today's lesson that you didn't know before, if you could just share that with us. That's just a little feedback for me, and I would appreciate that. All right, so here's the quiz. So I'm going to ask 4 questions for each of these 12 trees that we looked at. Which ones have ornamental value is the first question. The second question will be which one are the host plants for the butterflies. The third question is which ones are good for jams and jellies and pies and those kind of things. And the last question is which ones are good for wildlife. So I've got there's a TV show, I think it's called America Speaks or something like that, and they ask questions and they come up with with part of the answer like that. So for the ornamental value, which one of these do you think? And does anybody have a guess? What would be DS? What would be DS?
You're welcome to unmute and spout it out if you know. And anybody who knows me knows I'm terrible at spelling, so I'm over here struggling myself. Downing serviceberry.
Yeah, the Downy serviceberry. Yeah, so the red chokeberry, black chokeberry. Okay, so here's the I won't keep you in suspense any longer. Here's the here's the ones that have. Say again.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was all of them. My bad. But go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, well, I knew what I was doing.
I'm so sorry.
I just didn't explain it very well. All right. So the second question: which one of these are host plants? All right, and you don't have to answer. I'm just going to flip to the flip to the side. This will be a lot more fun in the classroom.
Indeed.
Than virtual. So here's the answer for those. Third question is which ones are used for pies and jellies, and you see there's quite a few of them. And then this is a picture from my mom's yard. The berry over to the bush over to the right. That's the beauty berry. I think probably everyone has seen the beauty berry. And did you know you can make jelly out of beauty berries? Last year, I picked a bunch of beauty berries, and a friend of mine, his wife does jelly, so she came over to the house and we made beauty berry jelly. It makes a very pretty jelly. Kind of tastes like grape. Again, if you put sugar with anything, it'll taste good. Is there a question there?
With your elderberries, do you have to plant 2 different types of elderberries?
Okay, yeah, I saw that pop up on the chat. I was going to address that. My understanding on the elderberries if I'm incorrect, I will get back to you. Okay, Brandon?
Yes, sir.
But if you do not need 2 different varieties. What you need are 2 different genetically distinct plants. It's kind of like the Paw Paw. If you get Paw Paws that are from the same plant, because they form a thicket, they won't cross pollinate. So you need 2 different plants for that. So if I'm wrong on that, I will get back with you. All right. So one more question: which ones are good for the wildlife? And that would be all of them. Wildlife like all of these. All right. So that's my kind of my getting off the stage slide. So we are at Flat Creek Natives. You can see the kind of things that we are doing here: the native azaleas, wildflowers, trees, shrubs. We're open by appointment only. Like for Monday, I have 2 customers coming Monday. They've already booked their appointments. So you make an appointment. To get an appointment, you go to the Flat Creek Native Nursery Facebook page. And if you want to visit us, there's a map. So if you're coming from where you guys are at, you probably just come up Highway 41. I would guess. I'm not sure. I hadn't been to Americus in a while. But you can see we're between exits 127 and 134, but over on Highway 41. So we're kind of easy to find. Kind of tucked away, though. There's no big sign there. There's just a single black mailbox that says 2419 on the side. So if you want to find us, you just look for the black mailbox. All right. So and if you come, bring newspapers and whatever. I need the newspapers for my mail order business and pots and all that stuff. We use all of that kind of stuff. So are there any questions anybody has? Brandon, did someone win the free plant?
Miss Jennifer did. So I will get her.
How about that?
Miss Jennifer, if you don't mind, I dropped my email in there. If you don't mind emailing me, or you can email the Flat Creek Native Gmail and let him know that you are our winter chicken dinner.
Sure, we'll do.
So,
all right. Well, cool. Well, congratulations. So what gave it away? You figured it out. I thought that was pretty good.
I write notes on everything. That's how I retain my brain. So when I was looking at the notes, I noticed that it was alphabetical with the generic. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Good.
I'm not going to say who, but I did have
those botanical.
a few people text me to see if I'd help them with the answer a little bit, and I declined. So,
just another question. You can put the answer in the chat. I put the botanical name phonetic pronunciation in there. I didn't use a lot of botanical names tonight, but did you find that useful at all?
I always find the scientific names useful when I go back to research later. Particularly some of the things that have, common names that can be crossed over. So I'll write them down and go back and reference it later.
Yeah, frequently plants, they have common names that are all like mean the same, like different types of plants.
Yeah.
Like, for the very fancy, everybody loves the Tradescantia houseplants, but if you call it, let's say wandering Jew, or if you use spiderwort, well, that applies to so many different plants.
Right.
So yeah, in that case, it's very useful to have the actual, generic name and the, the full taxonomy.
I do have a, I looked up, I don't know if this is, I just plucked the elderberry question. The answer, I just did a quick search. It is self-fruitful. Okay. But if you have different varieties, you get better cross-pollination. So you get a healthier, probably a bigger fruit if you have two different shrubs. Okay.
Mr. Lewis, let me interject real quick.
Yeah.
It's almost 7:00. So if anybody needs to head out, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to actually stick around and ask Mr. Lewis some more questions that I personally want to know kind of the answers to. So if you want to take off, it's not rude if you need to head out and finish up supper or anything else. I just want to let you know that. And I know I'm going to stick around and ask Mr. Lewis some additional questions as well. And I got to ask him before his Mac dies.
Oh, so, yeah, that showed up, huh?
So.
Yeah. Yeah. So and okay, thank you for everybody for coming. I'll hang around until no one's here. But I appreciate you coming and the questions and the feedback. And congratulations, Jennifer.
Sorry, if you ran across us on Facebook, please like the page, follow us, and we're gonna do some more virtual classes in the future. We're probably gonna intermingle, do a few virtual classes a year, and hopefully get back to in-person classes soon. So that's the easiest way to keep track of what we got going on.
All right.
All right, folks, if anybody's got any questions, you're more than welcome.